context. The discussion will more specifically focus on identifying the critical challenges and proposing innovative solutions to make the curriculum more relevant and effective. As Sir said, we are very privileged to have with us very distinguished speakers, Professor Kanakaraj Ishwaran sir, Professor Vishnu Mohan Das sir, Professor Ravindra Ramesh Patel sir, and as per the schedule, it is Mr. Sandeep Kumar Patnaik sir. Sir, if any change is there, I'm not aware about it.
No problem. Actually, Professor Sandeep has another duty. We have brought Professor Yelne from Maharashtra, Nanded. So you can, I think we can ask, you want to share any introductory remarks, we can invite Professor DPC.
Okay. Yeah, and with we have very eminent Professor Dharampal Singh sir as chairperson of the session. All of them bring with them a wealth of experience and expertise on the topics that was set for today's discussion. I, Dr. Aditi Nath, Assistant Professor, Department of Social Work, Assam University, Silchar, heartily welcome all of you in this panel discussion. I would take the privilege to invite Professor Dharampal Singh sir, who is a professor and head of the Department of Social Work at Punjabi University, Patiala. He holds a PhD in social work from Kurukshetra University. His expertise includes gender studies, industrial social work, and women workers in the unorganized sector. Professor Singh has published extensively on topics like female feticide, women empowerment, and informal labor. He has also served in various administrative roles, including as director of the Chaudhry Ranbir Singh Institute of Social Science and Economic Change. With this, sir, we would like to express you that we are honored to have you with us in this session. Sir, I request you to start the session with your opening remarks. We will introduce other distinguished speakers after that.
Ji, ma'am.
Over to you, sir.
So, Dr. Aditi, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, very much.
Okay, and visible also. So, thank you so much at the outset. I'm really humbled for your introduction, and I'm very, feeling very threatened also by some of the words that you choose to use for me in my introduction. As you said, I'm an eminent social worker. I'm not. Okay, I have no, qualm in saying that I'm just as ordinary a student as you are. I am also learning, and I'm very thankful to Professor Kanagraj for reposing his trust in me and inviting me for today's session. So that is number one. So, and second is, I don't have any expertise in any of the things. I'm just, my area of interest are like, in bits and pieces, I study about gender issues, something on industries, and since I have done some, PhD guidance, and my study also was from the unorganized sector, so I may lay that claim that I'm an, I have some sort of interest in these areas rather than being an expert in these areas. Expert, specialization, expertise, these words really threaten me, really frighten me in that sense. So I must accept that. Number two. Number three is, I'm not the head of the department as of now, but since last 1 year, I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences. And earlier I used to be the head, so therefore you may update your records and accordingly do it. Now coming on to the point, the basic issue for which I have been invited. At the very beginning, I must congratulate the organizers for organizing this conference, because organizing such a huge event is really a humongous task. It's really difficult to organize, and that too when it is about organizing people online, because online is all more difficult than the offline mode because of various technological issues, and our adaptation to those issues is also in a way, we are wanting, as far as technology is concerned, we are wanting on many aspects. At least I'm a old school person, so I still am not very comfortable with the modern day technology. In that sense, organizing such webinars is really difficult, and therefore I must congratulate the secretary Bhupender Singh and the president Dr. Kanagraj for organizing this event, and then inviting me for chairing this session on the title of Innovations in Social Work Curriculum Development in India. As a student of social work, my observation is that social work has not been able to adapt itself in the Indian cultural and social situations, because of the reasons better known to you as well as me, and therefore there is a need that we must try to somewhere remodulate and readjust this social work, because social work in last about 88 years is still standing at the same point where it used to be. And I stand corrected, but this is my perspective, used to be in the late 40s when it came to India. So the basic characteristics, the basic character, I should say, not characteristic, but the basic character of the social work, the core character of social work has not been changed. Social work is still not a discipline which has evolved out of the socio-cultural situations of India. It is still a secularized missionary work. It is still is not able to fit into or address the aspirations of the people, and that is precisely the reason why social work has not been able to make a niche for itself. I, as a student, I have always been very critical, while in fact calling social work profession, I also have some reservations, and I have valid reasons for asserting this point of view. But anyway, that is not the issue for discussion today. But the word innovation as is used today for this theme is very loaded, and it really requires, social work curriculum development really requires some innovative practices which can capture the overall socio-cultural issues in the country, and which can address the aspirations of the people of the country. Having said this, I would I would, for the benefit of the audience, should tell them that for this session there are 4 speakers, and I would only be a timekeeper, because all of them, they are very well known in their respective field. And since this session was to start as per your program, which is sent to me, was at 11 o'clock, but now it is almost 11:50. So with the permission of the first speaker, and who is the organizer also of this event, I would actually seek his permission to reduce the presentation time to 10 minutes. Earlier he told me about 15 minutes, so that we are able to complete this session within the time limits. I hope Dr. Kanagraj will raise his hand and tell me, okay sir, thank you so much for approving this request. So I would request that we must limit our presentation in 10 minutes, because we are all experienced people, and this is also a competence. It's also an academic competence that you are able to speak out your mind within 10 minutes. 10 minutes is quite a time. In fact, telling stories and autobiographical experiences and so on, that is not actually required, because telling stories is easy. But when you are able to concise and address your issues within 10 minutes, is a reflection of your academic caliber and your competence. So I'll be very harsh when it comes out to the time limit. So we will not go beyond 10 minutes. The entire session should be over by 40 minutes, and then thereafter we can have discussions. with the permission of all the participants, I would invite some of the questions also as they permit. In fact, subject to their permission. So this is how I plan this session. And before I invite Dr. Kanagraj, I may also tell the audience that there are 4 other speakers. As I said, Dr. Kanagraj is the first speaker who will be speaking on the critical challenges and innovative solutions of the professionalization of Indian social work. This is number 1. And then second, we have Professor Bishnu Das. Bishnu Das is a professor in Bhimrao Ambedkar College, University of Delhi, and he will be actually speaking on the Bhartiyakaran of the social work curriculum. And I remember having met Dr. Bishnu on various occasions, and we met somewhere in last year, or maybe a couple of years back, maybe 2-3 years back, we met in Varda also, and we tried to change and modify the curriculum to, it was a humble attempt to try to make a fit into the as I said, the socio-cultural needs and aspirations of the people. And maybe today also Dr. Das will be addressing these issues with a new perspective, maybe with some add-ons on his part, because 2-3 years have lapsed and he must have had some new things also to share with the audience. So his title is Bhartiyakaran of Social Work. And then we have third speaker, Professor R.R. Patil. Dr. R.R. Patil, a friend of mine who is from Jamia Millia Islamia, and he will be speaking on social justice, inclusion, and empowerment in the social work curriculum. So I have had enough occasions where I was able to hear Dr. Patil, and Dr. Patil is also an advocate who sympathizes with us in this whole movement of modification and changing the social work curriculum. Maybe today also, sorry Bhupender. So today also Dr. Patil will be able to give his inputs and enlighten us on how this whole social justice, inclusion, and empowerment can be embedded or rightly placed in the curriculum of social work, and accordingly the necessary modifications can be made. So I'm looking forward to his presentation and his views on this topic. And the last presenter is Dr. Ghanshyam Yelne, who is a professor in the School of Social Sciences, SRTM University, and he will be actually enriching us by his views on enriching curriculum with experiences of the practitioners. So rightly so that we have have not been able to give the kind of the inclusion, should I say, or the engagement of the practitioners into the whole devising of this curriculum through our board of studies. In many of the universities, the practitioners are invited, but in many of the universities, practitioners are not invited, while the curriculum revision exercise is done. So therefore, the inclusion and engagement of practitioners is very important, because we claim that social work is a practice-based profession. Therefore, without the inclusion of the practitioners into the whole exercise of modifying and revising the curriculum, this may not achieve the desired output. So therefore, Dr. Ghanshyam Yelne will be able to give his perspective on how these practitioners can be, their experiences can be used for us to basically improvise this social work curriculum in the present context. So I welcome on behalf of the organizers and on behalf of the Society for Professional Social Workers, I welcome you all on this session, and I look forward to an enlightening session from all of you, and it will be a great opportunity for me. And then in the last, we will have 1 or 2 significant questions, and then we will wind it up. So the session should be over by 1 o'clock, sir. Dr. Kanagraj, by 1 o'clock. Okay, sir. Now I invite Dr. Kanagraj to start with his deliberations. Over to Dr. Kanagraj. Thank you so much. Unmute, 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 unmute.
Namaste to all of you, especially the chairperson, Professor D.P. Singh, my good friend, Dr. Vishnu Mohan Das, Dr. Ravindra Patil, Professor Ghanshyam Yelneji. Namaste to all of you, all the participants. I am sharing my happiness on this occasion. I would like to share some of my thoughts, my opinions. Please take this as opinions and verify yourself whether I am true, whether I am speaking from my experience, whether it is true and it is really work out, if my suggestions and all will work out or not. And you please ask your questions. It's very, very significant that we don't have the culture of discussion, debate, dialogue in social work. Something terribly missing, only receiving, listening, like that. I don't know whether listening is happening or not. That is even good. So now we will come to the topic. You see, social work. When we say social work, we are going to have centenary of social work. Another 12 years, we are going to have centenary. So it is already we have crossed 8 decades in India. So whether we have grown as a profession in India, whether we look at from the point of view of attribute approach or power approach, we need to look at, we need to read, we need to look back and look at present how social workers are there, what is their prestige, what is their status in the concerned organizations. You can talk about grassroots social workers to social workers working in the ministry, Delhi, Bombay, like metropolitan areas, in influential positions. Maybe, we need to look at whether we have and societal recognition, recognition from the government. In the Indian context, we need to look at, and we are not ready to study also what is the prestige of social workers in the organizational hierarchy and the organizational context, at different levels. As I already said, this is a big question and we are not ready to do research on that. Social worker salary, returns, in economics, they call returns, how much they have invested, how much they got it, how many years they have spent. All these things are big questions. I feel if we ask all questions, the answers are very simple. Our position, our prestige, our salary. I'm not talking about professors like me and Ravindra or Vishnu or Professor D.P. Singh, but I am talking about the social workers actually working in the field. We are going to field sometimes. We are watching the fields. We are observers, participant observers to a greater extent. That is the great concern we have when we ask the status of social work professionals in India. That is very important. We need to get recognition by government, civil society, and society at large. If you look at the Padma Awards, many people got in the last 10 years or so. I have observed many people who have significantly contributed to the development of the Adivasi communities, scheduled caste, poor, working on water set development, all that real concerns of development, empowerment, and all in this country. Those who have health, well-being, if we look at, not even a single professional social worker is there among them. And that actually is a big it is very difficult thing to digest. So as a social work teacher, are we doing justice? This is a great concern. See, aspect of profession, these professional associations, are they functioning democratically? Are they functioning effectively? Are they really taking care of the professional social workers, the needs of professional social workers, the needs of the society at large? I feel the situation is very dismal. It's far from satisfactory. The associations are serving interests of a few people. And all they talk about justice, equality, liberty, only talking. But when we ask questions to the leaders, whether Ispsw leader, earlier, now we are trying to change that. We are fighting against that, I am telling. Actually, we are fighting. Our team is really fighting for inclusion, decentralization, democratization, which is responsiveness, leadership, responsible. I asked so many questions in the Ispsw Google mail group. They are not responding, and even people, members also not supporting. See, the problem is something professional consciousness among social worker is something very, very terribly missing. And something consigns social work, something consigns responsibility towards profession. Something terribly few, 4 or 5 people, 3, 4, 3, 2 people, 2, 3 people come and say, what you are asking is genuine thing. Why not the president give? See, this is a very sad state, and we have to go and search the roots and the reasons within social work education, because it is the nursery which actually develops social workers. We have to see the ground soil, the social work education. Why social work education? When we look at social work education, it is something, a colonial imperialistic agency that was introduced in India to legitimize colonial domination. So, but when you look at our social work curriculum, there is nothing about colonialism, how colonialism has ravaged our economy, economy, society, culture, poverty, how people suffered under colonialism. We never talk. And this is and still also we see professional social work conferences. They are implementing agendas of the their agenda conference themes. They are not coming from the field. What people are doing research, what practitioners are facing. We are not concerned with those things, our conference themes generally, if you look at. So this root actually education. We talk about when we tell social work education, it is trying to impart knowledge, something cognitive domain, values, affective domain, they call psychomotor, then skills, expertise, command, now all together they call competency. So when you talk about all these things are alien. What we are teaching by and large is alien, imported, and they are, whether they are relevant, adequate, fit, effective to address our problems, social problems. Social workers have to address the challenges, which are collective challenges, social challenges, and individual at different levels we address. But whether the knowledge, the perspective, the drishti, we are not able to understand our problems, our clientele, whatever they are facing, the ground, and we are trying to impose the colonizers' ideas, lenses, understanding, and hide the real understanding. This is the major problem. So this is the major problem. So what we need is actually to change the curriculum. So when we need to change the curriculum, and we need to see the process of curriculum development. Actually, when we say social work education, curriculum development, one thing, teaching learning process, assessment, another thing, and another thing is field work organization and supervision. We are going to have the next two panel discussion today, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow on that. We are devoting, and when it comes to the curriculum, the process itself faulty. It is top down, imported, and there is no feedback mechanism, and there is no participation from the different stakeholders. The professional social workers' wisdom is not harnessed. And we don't know what works here, what does not work here, what fits it here. We assume that all are relevant, adequate fit. See, we are highly biased. So we don't see what is available in our, we have largest civilization surviving. And we have volumes of literature, philosophy, art, music, dance, so much. That is excluded, Bharatiya current perspective will think. And coming to the curriculum process, this feedback, research, making the curriculum very relevant, adequate, fit, that is very much missing. And when we look at the UGC curriculum, the word culture and cultural context, Indian culture is something missing. Many a times, the number of times used, the word India used is also something decreasing over the years. When you look at the curriculum, only imported material is there. India is there means only policy. So this is content, inadequate content. That is another problem. And quality, when you look at sociology syllabus, psychology syllabus, economic syllabus, educational syllabus, they are so advanced in theory and paradigm, methodology, but social work is lagging behind. So, if you look at question paper also, at the advanced levels of learning is something terribly missing. So that is the issue. Real issue is that actually the quality is poor. And you could see the social work education review committees by the UGC have not also delved deep into the fitness of imported knowledge. Actually, India, for time immemorial, is open to the knowledge from all directions of the world. And it was always, this country was always open to knowledge from all directions and always willing to give and share the wisdom, not like colonizers. You are unfit to rule yourself. You are unfit to devise your own, design your theories, perspectives, models. Only you are fit for following the white people. And your knowledge, your values, your beliefs, your assumptions, and all your whatever you have, obsolete, outdated. That is what missing. And another thing, see, one more thing, science. When you look at the curriculum, most of the components, whether theories, concepts, methods, techniques, untested, pseudo-scientific, we have to believe and practice them rather than test them. That is another thing, exclusion of science, predominance of theology, predominant of the empty values. Coming to the values, what I see, they are empty. Empty in the sense they are derived from negative experiences. See, ideals, when we talk Karuna, Buddha will come. Buddhas, Mahavira, Ahimsa means Mahavira. You don't have ideals in the Western knowledge who have actually practically demonstrating that. Values only for rhetoric, deceiving people many a times. Liberty, equality, fraternity, justice. Very good. Baba Sahib Ambedkar tells that these values can be very much derived from Upanishads. So that actually now the problem is very clear. Our curriculum is not matching our needs. And we believe that Western knowledge is universal, applicable without asking, without debating, discussing like that. So what we need to do, we need to take feedback from the alumni, feedback from the other stakeholders, particularly those who are managing, supervising social workers. already the different levels we need to take. That is very important. And another thing, actually, we need to do research on social work practitioners, and how the curriculum is there in the country. And we can learn from not only from the West, but we can learn from Africa. We can learn from other ASEAN countries, particularly China, Hong Kong, Latin America. There are methodologies, research methodologies. There are perspectives. From here also we can learn lot of things. Vishnu will tell about that. We can make our curriculum really diverse. Cultural diversity they talk, but they don't know other cultures. How come we work with different cultures? We have different cosmologies, worldviews here. So we need to have research as another strategy, and we need to widen the methodology. Different methodologies are available, not only qualitative and quantitative, participatory, social network, other, indigenous statistics is there, indigenous methodologies from other countries are there. So these things, when we include, when we expand the curriculum, enrich the curriculum, when we do research and advance and improve the linkage between classroom teaching, syllabus, then research and field work, we will definitely enhance the quality of social work education. The real concern for people, something missing, that will emerge. So much are there to talk, because there are so many speakers. We have to give space for them. Thank you very much. Any questions are there, we will be able to deal with them. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Kanagraj, for being very brief and to the point. So I would request the audience, in the sense, those who are in the chat may write down their questions, specific questions. So we will randomize and select some of the questions, and then we will ask. You may write the name of the panelist also, from whom the question is addressed, so that we can be more, in a way, more organized while asking the questions, and for the response also. So now I come down to the next second panelist, and I said earlier, Professor Vishnu Mohan Das. Dr. Vishnu is requested to switch on his video if it is possible, or unmute himself. So good morning, Dr. Vishnu. How are you? You please unmute yourself, sir.
I'm fine, sir. Yes, sir. I'm fine, sir.
How are you, sir? How
Namaskar.
are you doing?
I am fine, sir.
So you can be a
Am I
little
audible,
closer
sir?
to your mic, sir. You can be a little closer to your mic, so that your audio is clear to the audience.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So now the floor is yours, and I look forward to some of the inputs about your theme of Bhartiyakaran of social work. You please unmute and go ahead.
May I start, sir? Am I audible, sir?
Ji, you are audible. Please go ahead. Yes, please.
DP Singh, sir? Yes, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Professor DP Singh, sir, the chairperson for the today's panel discussion. Professor Kanagraj, President of Ispsw. Other panelists today, Professor R.R. Patil and Professor Ghanashyam Yelne, Dr. Upinder ji, Dr. Aditi, my friends and the participants. So I have been asked to speak on Bhartiyakaran of social work curriculum, and Professor DP Singh ji, Professor Kanagraj, and Professor Yelne, Professor Patil, all we have been working, for around 7-8 years towards Indianizing the social work curriculum. Why we are using the term Bhartiyakaran and why not indigenization, I will come to that point. Before going, just I want to highlight about the theme, innovations in social work curriculum. In the present contemporary context, if you see social work course, social work discipline, we have not got any professional recognition. And earlier that we are professional. But we have never got any such recognition by the UGC or Government of India or any state government or at the university level also. In most of the universities, social work discipline comes under Faculty of Social Science. And unfortunately, in some of the universities, social work course is being run as an adjunct program under the Department of Adult Education, Journalism, Business Management, Sociology Department. That means social work as an independent discipline still is yet to establish in Indian context. Forget about the professionalization. And secondly, after the introduction of the National Education Policy 2020, some of the universities have already implemented the 4-year undergraduate program, and very soon they are also going to start 1-year master's program. And in this process of 4-year undergraduate program, social work is being treated like other social science discipline. It is not considered as a professional discipline. And for fieldwork purpose, it has been given maximum, I think, 4 credit in most of the universities. That is 4 hours of fieldwork in a particular week. Earlier, we used to have around 15 hours of fieldwork in a particular week that we used to say concurrent fieldwork. So in this current situation, where social work discipline is yet to get recognition after the introduction of new education policy and the course curriculum that we have Western imported early in social work curriculum in India since 1936. And in existing in this scenario, we need to think to completely overhaul the course curriculum, the fieldwork pedagogy, and the social work research agenda. We need to completely redesign, restructure, redefine the course structure, the curriculum, the learning outcome, the research agenda, the vision, mission, values, everything of the social work. Because the kind of social work curriculum we have, we are completely, I will not say completely we are failed, but we are not able to, meet the expectations from the society as a social work professionals. And secondly, many times since I was the student of social work, and before that also, there is always discussion that social work curriculum should be indigenized. It is required. But the term indigenization is a very confusing, trivial, deceptive concept. When you talk of indigenization, it is basically the process of making the discipline sensitive to the cultural nuances and social reality. And indigenization can take 2 different routes. Professor Durganand Sinha talks of 2 types of indigenization. One is endogenous indigenization, another is exogenous indigenization. When you talk of endogenous indigenization, it is purely the product of culture taking the native concepts into account. And when we talk of exogenous, this is the product of interaction of the cultural variables with the concepts, theories, and models imported from the West. And this is the gradual process where the Western American alien concepts and theories and methods are introduced in India from the outside. The problem is, in India, a majority of the social workers in India trained in the Western methods and American methods. And for them, it is not possible to make any sudden shift towards endogenous theories and methods. So it is natural for them to continue using the Western concepts and theories borrowed from the West. So our social workers are trying for exogenous indigenization of the social work discipline, because endogenous indigenization focuses on the contemporary relevance of the cultural heritage and native theories. Particularly, we call it Indian social work. When you talk of endogenous indigenization, we call it Indian social work. And from my point of view, when you talk of exogenous indigenization, we call it social work in India. So exogenous indigenization is the local adaptation of the imported discipline social work in India at the present context in 1936 is gradually getting exogenous indigenized. That is, we are trying to sustain, as Professor Kanagraj mentioned, and Professor D.P. Singh sir told in his initial remark, we are trying to sustain the Western worldview, the Western knowledge in the non-Western societies. We know that the present status of social work profession in India is very, very ludicrous. Of course, if we see the 2001 social work model curriculum, we talk of indigenization. But the term indigenization has only remained in that model curriculum. In 1960-65, there is very lesser emphasis, but somehow there has been emphasis on indigenization. So indigenization, as I told, has remained a very deceptive concept. So instead of using indigenization, we are calling Bhartikaran, that is an attempt towards indigenization and towards decolonization. As you know, social work education in India was introduced in 1936 without having any kind of need assessment, as quoted by Professor Dr. Kalyan Mandal in the Economic and Political Weekly. Even Jane Howard, in his paper, mentions that the Americans who are very much eager to implement their ideas, their values in the non-Western countries, and India, which was under the colonial rule, and India was also very receptive to the Western ideas. So it provided a fertile ground for them to implement their concepts, their theories, their methods, everything into the other non-Western countries, including India. So Devi Prasad, Professor Devi Prasad, one of the professor of Tata Institute of Social Science, he highlighted that the social work profession in India is suffering from 5 major deficits. If we can overcome those deficits, then we can able to innovate. We can able to even renovate, repair our social work profession. What are the major deficits as highlighted by him is the knowledge deficit. Knowledge deficits, because as I highlighted, we have only Western knowledge. We have been able to produce very little amount of indigenous books and literature. Of course, many books have been written by the Indian writers, Indian authors, but there is less focus on towards generating the Indian Indic wisdom in the field of health, ecology, society, psychology. We have many, what we talk in general, India's knowledge system. NEP now focuses on India's knowledge system. However, after the introduction of Indian, national education policy, I find very, very lesser content. Even you can say there is no content on India's knowledge system in some of the universities. I don't want to quote and name those universities in this public forum. So Professor Devi Prasad says there is knowledge deficit, there is competency deficit, because the kind of fieldwork training we are giving has become converted into a kind of ritual. Fieldwork that is once called as the signature pedagogy in social work education has mere remained just as a ritual, just to complete the minimum hours, because the methods, the techniques, the models that we teach to the students, they find it difficult in applying into the field setting, because our teaching learning pedagogy, our training systems, our training practices, the modules, everything is required some kind of complete redesigning and renovation. And it is the present practice of fieldwork education is not able to generate any kind of interest among the social work students. Even I am very sorry to mention that whenever I speak to some of the students of social work, they say that social work is their least preferred choice. When they did not find, most of the students, when they did not get opportunity to, get admission in other social science subjects, they come to the social work. Many of my friends, many of the participants may not agree with my, statement, but in the reality, when I interact with the students, I get this kind of remarks. And third is professional deficit. Always we try to, compare our social work profession, social work discipline, and we called it as a profession and compare with other established professional disciplines in India. But there is no such recognition. Even the university is not able to recognize us as a professional course. Then forget about the other government bodies. And Professor Kanagraj already highlighted that there is lack of pressure from the various social work associations. They are not able to, dialogue, negotiate with the government, and they are not able to have the professional, status. There is also another major deficit is governance deficit and ideological deficit. The present social work curriculum that we have is basically borrowed from the West, that is, governed by the ideological orientation, basically capitalism, individualism. And India has a different kind of social ideology and other ideological orientation. So in this context, implementing the Western ideas, Western concepts into the Indian setting has proved, very much disastrous for the social work profession, because we understand that our Indian society is very much diverse. We have different language, different culture, different religion, and in India in particular have different social problems. We have problems of poverty, illiteracy, communalism, disasters, superstitions, dowry, casteism. We have a set of different problems. And America has a different kind of problems. Indian society, is a very much, stable society. It is an agricultural society. American society is a different kind of society, unstable society. It is an industrial society. Their religion, their values are different. Our religion, our values are different. So when that imported alien concepts and theories are implemented in India, it is sure that this will not work perfectly in the Indian context. And another important thing is, whenever we create some knowledge, and India is full treasure of ancient knowledge, tested knowledge, evidence-based knowledge in the field of social sciences also. I am not talking about mathematical, physical, medical sciences. In social sciences, unfortunately, our knowledge has become confined to India only. And we must take into account the local knowledge, local problems, local situation, the regional context, the national, as well as the international level. But because of the power structure of the West, the monetary strength, their military power, because of colonization, whatever knowledge they produce, influence of the deep state also in the recent times. So colonize the education system, the curriculum in the other non-Western countries. And whatever the knowledge they could develop, they call it universal, and our knowledge system says remained as, indigenous. So in the movement of Bhartikaran that we started along with our other experts, the great advocates, Professor T.P. Singh, Kanagraj, other panelists, Professor Elne and Patil, all our friends, those who are part of this, we have four major objectives of Bhartikaran of social work curriculum. Number one is we try to completely restructure, redefine the social work curriculum. We aim at to make it contextual, integrated, and diverse, inclusive. Number two is we want to change the teaching learning pedagogy of social work education. We need to clearly define the instructional design. We have to properly go for concept mapping, and already we have done little work in this area, concept mapping, that assessment, what kind of assessment should be there, because we know that summative assessment will not work. In social work, we require formative continuous assessment. The assessment rubric, learning outcomes, proper learning outcomes for each paper, course outcomes, everything we have to design the teaching learning pedagogy. And third, the fieldwork. In the fieldwork training, we have to be very much careful because we call it signature pedagogy. Because the supervisor has to keep 360-degree vigilance on the students. Because we need to see his analytical skills, his his observation skills, report writing skills, his critical thinking skills, 360-degree kind of assessment, his interpersonal skills, everything. Even we have to redesign the methods, social work methods and techniques that is applicable in the Indian context. The time is very short, and the fourth major objective is we try to change the research agenda also. The kind of research we are doing in the Indian universities. We have produced so much of PhDs. ICSR is giving lots of projects. UGC was earlier giving many projects, But if you see social work research, the kind of research we are having, it is trying to enlarge the gap between the problem and the solutions. The basic purpose of social science research is to address the social problem. Of course, critical inquiry, knowledge generation, always we used to say, but one of the major focus of social science research is to address the social problems at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. None of the research has made any such attempt in this direction, because we are more guided by the positivistic kind of research. We are more interested in publication in high index journals, Scopus index journals. We are more interested in bringing out, a good research report, good product. We are more interested in using SPSS, statistics, high-level statistics, but simply we are trying to change the perception of research. The basic goal of social science research, sir, 1 minute only, let me wind up. The basic purpose of social science research is to address the social problem. So in this direction, we need to change the social work research agenda. So in my last word, I want to convey that we, all the social work educators, researchers, students should work towards collectively for promoting Indianization, Bhartikaran of social work education. Thank you, organizer, Professor Kanagraj, for giving me chance to speak before this audience. Thanks a lot. Thank you, sir.
So thank you, Dr. Vishnu, for giving the roadmap for the Indianization of social work. Indianization word should not offend anyone, but it's only possibly the philosophy which is inclusive, which is taking ideas from all the cultures and all the theologies. So we will have to understand the real meaning of the word, what it means to be an Indian. Indianization is a very profound, concept. The Indian philosophy is very profound, and the doctrines, the principles must be inculcated into the curriculum, and we must be able to distinguish between the core doctrines and the practice part. Maybe the practice part of the Indian traditions might or may have apparently some things which are redundant, something which are not relevant in the modern day. And it is the beauty of the Indian traditions and Indian knowledge systems. They allow you to reject them, renounce them, denounce them, declare them obsolete, falsify them, and so on and so forth. This is nowhere else than in the Indian traditions, where every dissent is also a part and parcel of the whole discussion. So I would request you, the generations, upcoming generations, to focus on the research part, as he highlighted that we have to take up researches which are more about the core aspects of social work rather than the peripheral aspects. The social work perspective should be visible, and more so it should be tilted towards the Indianization, so that we are able to capture the problems, the aspirations, the expectations, the values of our society at large. So thank you, Dr. Vishnu, for giving your perspective on Indianization. Now I would request the third panelist of this panel discussion, Professor Patil. Professor Patil has earned his master's from Tata Institute, and thereafter he did his MPhil from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and from there he went to Assam University for his PhD. So that way he's a student where he has the live experience of many universities, from the Maharashtra to the Assam, with almost the entire university canvas has been witnessed by Professor Patil, and now he's serving in Tamil Emilia in the center of the country, and hopefully he is more aware and more exposed to people like me, at least, who have not had this chance of being in some universities in the south or in the east, except for the universities in Haryana and Punjab. So I accept, and I actually look forward to a more holistic and a more integrative and inclusive perspective of the Indian curriculum, from Maharashtra to Assam to Delhi, and to a very other university like Jawaharlal Nehru University has been in the news for various other reasons in the last few years. So he has been a student there in Jawaharlal University. So I look forward to you, sir. Dr. Patil, it is nice meeting you personally for me and to interact with you today. And I look forward to meet you more often, sir. Now floor is open to you, sir. Please, you can unmute and please go ahead. Unmute yourself. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for kind words and introducing me to the participants and the other panelists. At the outset, I sincerely thanks to um, Professor Kanagraj for giving me this opportunity to speak about my views on the social work curriculum development, again from the perspective of social work, inclusion and the empowerment. This particular 42nd annual national conference of Indian Society of Professional Social Work is a body which is taking the initiatives to carry forward the kind of innovation they want to visualize. That itself is the kind of welcome kind of initiatives in the social work discipline. And this process must go on. That's what as an academician, as a social work educator, my personal and honest view is that this process should go on. Before starting, about this particular topic which is given to me, that is again the innovation in social work from social work curriculum from social justice, inclusion and empowerment perspective. I thought that I should share some of my feelings. That is, one needs to look at the entire knowledge domain which has been disseminated from the rich Western countries toward the southern or the South Asian countries or global South, is again the knowledge domain process in the field of education knowledge. It is again top-down approach. That's what one can see. and that's also been because of the capital accumulation at the global north. That's also played the significant role in disseminating this knowledge of different discipline, and the way they want to propagate this in the global south, that has been processed, is in the process. But then, since last 10 years, there has been concept which has been largely discussed. One is the post-colonial perspective, and another one is the multiculturalism. Not only in the Indian context, but this also concept has come from the West. And Edward Said, Frank Fanon, and all the people, they were talking about it. That has changed the entire philosophical understanding of the any of the reality, whether you want to look at it from the ontological perspective, epistemological perspective, or metaphysical perspective. It has given us the different viewpoint to understand how this particular knowledge domain is rolled out and existing in the larger society, and how it has been the knowledge has been created in the larger society. And it is in this context I always felt that the entire social work, education, I will call it education only. Still, I won't call it as a profession because of a lot of other limitations of this discipline. So social work education has very different kind of nature in the Indian context. Again, came in the Indian context during the colonial period, and still exist in the Indian society the way it has been brought. So one thing is there that whatever we are the byproduct of it, whether you, me, and the many other seniors, they are the byproduct of this colonial social work education, which has been started from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences and later replicated by the other social work institutions in India. But since, as I said, like the last 10 years, then the movement has been started again in the West to look at the knowledge domain from decolonial perspectives. It means that this enlightenment, this knowledge, the insight which has come about to understand something from the indigenous perspective or decolonial perspective is also has come from the West. And they are the harbinger of the deconstructing their knowledge system. So that is the one thing one needs to understand in the larger context of it, that social work, although which has emerged in the Western context because of whatever the filth or whatever the problem was there in the West during that period of time, their socio-cultural context, the context of socio-economic condition that has led to the one particular understanding to serve the society, that maybe through the Fabian socialism perspective, or from the perspective of the human secularism, or from the one particular socio-religious perspective. So I said that we are the part and parcel of it, and I don't believe in that way to throwing the baby with the bathwater. Reason being that we still need to come out with some alternate strong perspective, and that is the process. And the process is again will come out with the one of the alternate, as already my previous speaker, Professor Vishnu Das Mohan, has talked about. And that process should go on. That's what I believe in, and that's the reason why I always feel affiliated to the way this entire movement of Indianization or indigenization is going in the Indian context. Now, while setting the stone about that, what I'm going to speak, but then at the same time, in the chief guest remarks, Professor Bansidhar Pandey, he has also mentioned very pertinent point. Why innovations in social work education? Why now? What should be its nature? What are the advantage of it, and what are the challenges it's going to face? And these things also one needs to understand in the context of India, while dealing with the social work education in general for the development sector, and the social work intervention for addressing the conventional issues of the Indian society, whether that is the cultural marginalization or social cultural discrimination in this country. And it is in this context I always feel that there should be 2-3 perspective one needs to understand. And first and foremost aspect what I feel, there is the knowledge whichever exists in the society, and particularly social work knowledge, uh, it should be integrated with the indigenous knowledge system, and we can also call it in the Indian context indigenized knowledge system. And this indigenized knowledge system is there in our culture, tradition, traditional wisdom, practices, and these can basically help us in this entire, innovating our social work curriculum. And when I say this, I also feel to say that there are almost, if you can take the traditional Hindu philosophical Puranas are there. There are almost around 36 Puranas are there. We know only Bhagavad Gita, which talks about the Krishna Puran. Then there is a Shiva Puran is there, which only talks about the Shiva. But then there is, apart from this, there are also the some of the Puranas which are very much related to the individual social responsibility, individuals' social commitment, how individuals should look at the larger society. And it reminds me, whatever it my limited reading about these Puranas, the Advaita Purana, if you can see, it basically talks about the oneness of the Atman and then the Brahman. The Atman, again, the soul, and the Brahman is the reality. And it did say that it is more believes in non-dualism, and it says that one needs to carry this non-dualism along with while practicing oneself, which is comprised of the empathy, which comprised of the doing something for the larger society. It also about the compassion and so on and so forth. So the history and philosophy of social work, if you can look at it from the perspective of the Advaita Purana, it basically tells that the traditional wisdom in the society itself has the such a rich literature, such a good references and the sources, which basically tells you that how the traditional society were believing in the oneness of the society and the welfare, well-being and the welfare of the larger society. Unfortunately, at the theoretical level, there is one particular kind of interpretation, but at the ground level, you were found that there is a caste-based discrimination and other forms of discriminations were there. That is the mismatch were there in the society. But then innovation in the social work discipline, I feel that there is a need of going back to the traditional knowledge system, especially Advaita Purana, if we can try to integrate with the social work discipline, especially in the history and philosophy of social work, that could really give the knowledge about how the rituals and then how the scriptures basically talked about the oneness and well-being of the society. The second innovation, what I feel also in the context of the literature as well as in the context of the social work curriculum, that every curriculum should be culturally relative. As already Professor Das talked about various aspects, but then if you see and assess and if you read, and we all are aware about that, there is some missing components of the cultural relativism, cultural relativism in the social work discipline and social work literature, that basically keeps this entire profession away from the what is actually its strength and what are the basically it can do for the larger society. Reason being, you learn the alien concept, you learn the concept from the West, you learn their socio-cultural values, and fitting those concepts in the Indian context is become very difficult in that sense. And that's the reason why I always believe that somewhere the cultural relativism need to also fit into the practice of the social work discipline, that will give the more weightage, more acceptance in the society. It is in this context I feel that there are a lot of good things one can draw from the Buddhism, and especially the four noble truths of the Buddhism. It talks about the suffering, the causes of suffering, the end of suffering, and what are the different ways to minimize that suffering. So fourfold truth of the noble truth of the Buddhism, as well as Ashtang Marg of the Buddhism, is the another the literature in the Buddhism itself, which basically gives the more cultural color, cultural relativism to the Indian social work practice, and if that can be taught through the social work literatures, particularly in the ethics, values, and this and history and philosophy of the social work, that will give the students the what are the Indianness in this particular social work syllabus. Apart from this Advaita Purana and the Buddhism, I also feel that the Triguna theory also has its own potentials and significance in making the social work discipline more indigenized, more innovative, not with the technology, but then also what are your soft skills are there, what are your soft technologies are there, and that I will say that these scripture rituals and the traditional wisdom in the larger textbooks and the rituals, as well as in the practice, that basically can make the social work curriculum more comprehensive to be taught in the Indian context and get the more effective result out of it. The third one, again, the innovation, what needs to understand in the Indian context, especially in the social work discipline from the perspective of social justice, inclusion, and the empowerment. The caste-based discrimination or socio-cultural discriminations are the age-old, century-old kind of practice in this country. One needs to understand these communities right from the perspective of the as a human being, as a citizen of the country. Constitution has been protecting them with the different laws, act, policies, and then measures. But at the same time, the constitution and the state is doing their job. But at the grassroots level, the people, those who should follow those guidelines, the people who should adhere to those guidelines, are somewhere remains unaware about it, or the kind of dynamics which is there, intercaste dynamics, which are very strong. And it is in this context I feel that there's a social work education should emphasize more on the more social justice theories, more anti-oppressive, anti-discriminatory theories, human rights framework, or the giving the more knowledge to the social work students about the legal mechanism which are there for the protecting the social justice of the individuals or the people or the people from the marginalized background. That would be the another way one can look at it. So as I said that there are three way I can look at innovation in this social work discipline. One, as I said, that there should be more indigenous way. One should look at the syllabus and innovate. I will rather using innovate. I will say that we need a radical change in the social work syllabus from these three perspectives. One is the Indianized or indigenous social work perspective. Second, from the cultural relative perspective, and third, from giving the more emphasis on the social justice and inclusion and the empowerment perspective. Having said this, the curriculum of social work should be more aligned with the subjects related to specific communities and their issues. As I aware about when I had joined the Department of Social Work, and that time Professor late Professor Siddiqui was the the curriculum design committee chairperson, and somewhere the one of the paper title was the vulnerable communities and social work, and in those in that paper there was the vulnerable communities were again STs and all other kind of thing. I told him that yes, sir, and that paper has given me to for the modify it and just do some updating thing. I told him very frankly that yes, sir, I have a problem with this word vulnerable. I don't call them as a vulnerable. The society has made them as a vulnerable, and there is a need to change the entire title of the paper. And he said, okay, you suggest. I said that it should be marginalized communities, issues and intervention. And I said that they have been marginalized because of the various practices, that is social, cultural, economic, political, and so on and so forth. Uh, and that has been accepted in the departmental curriculum design committee. So I felt there is one liberal approach, one approach toward accepting the new ideas, also realizing about that what is the current trends are there and how different people looking at the different communities issues. And that was, I said that it is, I was grateful to Professor Siddiqui for that, that he has accepted that. And in the meeting itself, he said that there's a name going to be changed for this particular paper. So I say that this particular liberal approach, this particular acceptance needs also to be there in the social work discipline to accept if somebody talks about indigenization or if somebody talks about Indianization, what is the logic behind it? What is the relevance of in the Indian context and why, since we are not, assumed to change the certain thing, why it is the social work discipline is not effectively performing or it is not been in that particular in the domain where the other disciplines are there. So these were the, as I said, that these were the some of the insights I can talk about today. Need to do the innovations in social work from the perspective of the social justice, inclusion, and then empowerment. Apart from that, there could be also that there is more need to need to accept the diverse perspective, as I said, from the marginalized group, whether they are Dalit, Adivasis, LGBTQs are there, or the religious minorities communities are there, that they have their say in the larger domain of the society and how they undergo certain kind of thing. So if you can put this into the curriculum design, pedagogical approaches, fieldwork practice, and as well as for the larger learning, which could be make the social work very different in the Indian context. And that is what from my side. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.
So thank you, Dr. Patil, for taking us through the way the curriculum should not use the concepts like vulnerability, but instead should be more appropriately be using concepts like marginal communities and maybe other such things. Also, you touched upon various traditional aspects of the Indian traditions and highlighted the need of incorporating them also in the curriculum, and rightly so, because most of us, we actually do not know, or whatever little we know, we draw our conclusions from there. And when we draw conclusions because of lack of knowledge, then they are more likely to go wrong, and rather than doing good, they actually end up doing worse for the discipline. So in one sense, we should be able to know and study more of our own culture, tradition, and philosophy, because as we know more, and we will know that we actually know a very little of the entire philosophy of the Indian subcontinent. So in that, slide, your presentation has been very enlightening to me and possibly to the audience as well. And I am really thankful for providing your time to us on this platform. And I really, on behalf of the organizers, can request you to collaborate with the team and the mentors of this whole program in the future programs as well. So thank you, sir, so much once again. Thank you very much. Now, I would request the last speaker, Dr. Ghansham Yelene, and I hope he must be on. Is he all? Yes, he's there. So Dr. Yelene is from. Basically, he's a professor in. Let me open up his biodata. He's a professor in Nanded in the School of Social Sciences at Swami Ramanand Tirath Marathwada University. He holds a MSW in the specialization of labor welfare and personal management, and that he did from Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University, followed by a PhD in sociology from Swami Ramanand Tirath Marathwada University. So Dr. Yelene, are you there, sir? Sir, are you there, sir? Sir, can you switch on your video, please? Dr. Gansam.
I'm here.
Sir, if you desire, you can switch on your video, but it is your discussion entirely. But may I introduce your topic to the audience once again? You will be dwelling on enriching the curriculum with the experiences of the practitioner. Now I hand over the floor to you, sir. Your time starts now. Thank you so much. Please, over to you.
Can you hear me?
You are not clearly audible, sir. Can you be a little closer to your microphone?
Now you can hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, but maybe I might not have some problem with my network. But as far as my network is concerned, your audio can be still better.
Okay, okay. So thank you very much, Dr. DP Singh and Kanakraj, for inviting me to speak on this platform regarding innovations in curriculum development. Namaste, Kanakraj ji. So as Dr.
Namaste,
DP...
sir. Namaste. Welcome.
Namaste. Can you hear me, Kanakraj?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
you are
Yes,
audible.
sir.
Please go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Please. You are
Okay.
audible.
Please go ahead.
ओके ओके सर हम भारतीयकरण की बात कर रही है, इसलिए मैं भारतीय भाषा में बात करूंगा, हिंदी में। मेरा MSW 89 में मैंने किया था कंप्लीट अमरावती यूनिवर्सिटी से, और 10 साल वेरियस NGOs गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में काम करने के बाद 97 में मैं यूनिवर्सिटी सेटअप में एंट्री किया हूँ। तो मुझे प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपीरियंस के साथ जो थेरोटिकल एक्सपीरियंसेस हुए हैं उसके बारे में मैं आज बात करना चाहूंगा। जब हम करिकुलम डेवलपमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं तो हमें यही भी देखना पड़ेगा कि आज हम NEP 2020 के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, और हमारे सभी विश्वविद्यालयों में करिकुलम चेंज करने की बात हो रही है और किया जा रहा है, कहीं पे हुआ है, कहीं पे चालू है। इस करिकुलम का जो स्ट्रक्चर हमें गवर्नमेंट की ओर से प्राप्त हुआ है, उसमें हमें ऐसे बताया गया है कि योर करिकुलम शुड बी ऑन वैल्यू बेस। जहां तक मेरा नॉलेज है, हमारा सोशल वर्क टोटली वैल्यू बेस है। अभी उसको और हम कैसा वैल्यू बेस बनाएंगे, इसके बारे में हमें थोड़ा डिस्कशन करना पड़ेगा। बाद में कुछ चेंजेस उन्होंने लाए हैं। वो बोल रहे मेजर सब्जेक्ट, माइनर सब्जेक्ट, ऑन जॉब ट्रेनिंग, देन इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम, ये सभी चीजें हमारे सिलेबस में इंक्लूड है। जो ऑन जॉब ट्रेनिंग की बात कर रहे हैं, वो ऑलरेडी हम फील्ड वर्क के बारे में कर रहे हैं। जहां तक मेरे नॉलेज का ख्याल है, जब हमने MSW किया था, DP सिंह जी सर भी इससे सहमत होंगे कि हमारे टाइम 100 मार्क्स का पेपर हुआ करता था और एनुअल पैटर्न हुआ करता था। उसके बावजूद भी हमारा सिलेबस कंप्लीट नहीं होता था, और जो चीजें हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को पढ़ानी होती थी वो पढ़ाई नहीं जा सकती थी। और उस तुलना में अगर हम अभी की सिचुएशन देखेंगे तो हमारे सिलेबस को 4 क्रेडिट 25-25-25 यानी 100 मार्क के करिकुलम में यानी खत्म करने की बात की जा रही है। अगर 4 क्रेडिट में सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन का कोई हिस्ट्री फिलोसॉफी का पेपर पढ़ाया जाएगा तो बच्चा 100% डेवलप भी नहीं होगा, और उसको जो नॉलेज चाहिए वो भी नहीं होना है। तो 4 सेमेस्टर में 20-20-20 ऐसा 80 क्रेडिट्स में हमें ये सिलेबस बनाने के लिए बताया गया है। दूसरी बात यह है कि सिलेबस की हम जब बात कर रहे हैं तो जो गैप्स है, उस गैप्स के बारे में भी हमें सोचना पड़ेगा। सभी को मालूम है महाराष्ट्र में सोशल वर्क कॉलेजेस 58 है, और अलग अलग तरीके से सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन महाराष्ट्र में हो रहा है। मगर जब एजुकेशन के साथ हम आगे चल रहे हैं तो हमें अभी प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन में क्या चेंजेस आ रहे हैं उसका भी सोच करना पड़ेगा। इसके बारे में बात करते हुए पहला इशू मुझे सामने रखना है कि प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन में सोसाइटी में हम देख रहे हैं कि टेक्नोलॉजी डे टू डे, मूवमेंट टू मूवमेंट, आवर टू आवर और सेकंड टू सेकंड चेंज होते जा रही है। जब हम डेटा की बात करते हैं तो अभी एआई आया है, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस आया है, डेटा स्ट्रक्चर आया है, अभी और क्या क्या नई चीजें आने वाली है वो हमें पता नहीं। मगर अभी भी हम हमारा डेटा प्रोसेसिंग कोड बुक और मास्टर चार्ट के साथ में करते होंगे तो हमें इसके बारे में थोड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा। और जो टेक्नोलॉजिकल चेंजेस आए हैं उस टेक्नोलॉजिकल चेंजेस को, फॉर एग्जांपल एसपीएसएस सॉफ्टवेयर, इसको हमारे सिलेबस में कैसे लाया जाएगा इसके बारे में हमें सोचना पड़ेगा। बाद में मुझे एक इशू हरदम टीज करता है कि हम सोशल वर्कर है और हम सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन की बात करते हैं, मगर जब रिसर्च की बात करते हैं तो हम उसमें वर्ड यूज करते हैं सोशल साइंस रिसर्च। As far as my knowledge is concerned, we professional social workers are concerned with social work education. अगर हम ही हमारे सिलेबस में, हमारे वर्डिंग में सोशल साइंस रिसर्च बोलेंगे और सोशल वर्क रिसर्च को कहीं बाजू में रख देंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि यह हमारे करिकुलम के लिए ठीक बात नहीं है। जहां तक अभी आपने मेरा परिचय कराया तो आपको पता चला होगा कि मैं स्कूल ऑफ सोशल साइंसेस में काम कर रहा हूँ। मैं इकोनॉमिक्स के लोगों के साथ काम कर रहा हूँ, मैं सोशोलॉजी के लोगों के साथ काम कर रहा हूँ, ह्यूमन राइट के लोगों के साथ काम कर रहा हूँ, वेमेन स्टडीज के लोगों के साथ काम कर रहा हूँ और ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट स्टडीज के साथ में काम कर रहा हूँ। जहां तक सोशोलॉजिकल रिसर्च के डेजर्टेशन हमारे स्कूल में प्रेजेंट्स होते हैं तो ऐसा एक्सपेक्ट किया जाता है कि देयर शुड बी योर डेटा लिंक विथ सम थियोरेटिकल पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ सोशोलॉजी। तो समझो पैट्रियार्की की थ्योरी है तो डेटा क्या बोल रहा है इसके साथ हमें लिंक करना है। और जहां तक हम सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं तो हमारे सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन में ऐसी कुछ थ्योरीज दिखती नहीं है, थोड़ी साइकोलॉजी के पेपर में दिखती है। तो ऐसी कुछ थ्योरीज या फिर सोशोलॉजिकल थ्योरीज का पेपर हमारे करिकुलम में अगर हम डालेंगे तो हमको जेंडर पर्सपेक्टिव, फेमिनिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव, सोशोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव का ज्ञान होगा और उस पर्सपेक्टिव को लेते हुए हम समाज में जब जाएंगे तो उनको समझने के लिए हमको हेल्प होंगी। हम ऑलवेज वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वल्नरेबिलिटी, हम कमकुवत लोगों की बात करते हैं, मगर जब तक आप डॉक्टर बी आर अम्बेडकर का थॉट्स नहीं समझेंगे आप वल्नरेबल कम्युनिटी के बारे में कैसा जस्टिफाई करेंगे मुझे नहीं समझ में आ रहा है। इसलिए डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर का जो थिंकिंग है, उनके जो थॉट्स है, उनकी जो थ्योरीज है वो भी हमारे सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन में आनी चाहिए। मेरा जो एनजीओ का काम रहा है वो ऑलवेज विमेन के साथ में रहा है और विमेन के साथ काम करने के टाइम हम ऑलवेज बात करते हैं विमेन सेंटर्ड मॉडल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट। जब विमेन सेंटर ऑफ मॉडल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट की हम बात कर रहे हैं तो जब तक हमको फेमिनिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव जो है सोशोलॉजी का समझेगा नहीं तो हम विमेन सेंटर मॉडल का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कैसा करेंगे। इसलिए विमेन सेंटर मॉडल अगर हमको फील्ड में लाना है तो हमें GID क्या है, WID क्या है, फेमिनिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव क्या है, इसके बारे में सोचना पड़ेगा। और विमेन के एरिया में अगर हम रिसर्च करना चाह रहे हैं तो देयर इज अ डिबेट, इट्स रिक्वायर अ डिफरेंट मेथोडोलॉजी। दे आर सेइंग दैट देयर शुड बी ए रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी फॉर फेमिनिस्ट रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी की वो बात कर रहे हैं। मगर हम सोशल वर्क में हमारे सोशल वर्क पर्सपेक्टिव को विमेन इश्यूज की तरफ हम देख रहे हैं। मुझे यह लगता है कि अगर हम भी फेमिनिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव हमारे सोशल वर्क रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी में इनकॉर्पोरेट करेंगे तो विमेन इशू अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए हमें काफी हेल्प होगी, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। बाद में मुझे कुछ एक्सपीरियंसेस शेयर करना है। अभी फिलहाल कुछ दिन के पहले मैं छत्तीसगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी गया था एज ए सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट। और वहां पे टोटल 27 लोग इंटरव्यू के लिए आए थे, और आउट ऑफ दैट 17 डिस्टेंस एजुकेशन में से सोशल वर्क का करिकुलम या कोर्स कंप्लीट करके आए थे। और जब हम उनके साथ फील्ड वर्क की बात कर रहे हैं, फील्ड वर्क सुपरविजन की बात कर रहे हैं, या फिर बेसिक बेसिक थिंग है जैसी 4P है, वैल्यूज ऑफ सोशल वर्क है, तो उन्हें वो सभी चीजें नहीं पता है। ओनली फॉर द सेक ऑफ डिग्री, ओनली फॉर द सेक ऑफ पेपर दे आर डूइंग, दे आर इम्पार्टिंग सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन। तो मुझे लग रहा है कि जो डिस्टेंस एजुकेशन में सोशल वर्क आया है, उससे कुछ इम्पैक्ट हमारे सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन के ऊपर हो रहा है। तो उसके बारे में भी हमें सोचना चाहिए। अगर आपको ये कोर्स चलाना है तो फिर बच्चों को ज्यादा से ज्यादा फील्ड वर्क में कैसा एंगेज किया जाना चाहिए, इसके बारे में हमें सोचना पड़ेगा। इसमें भी हमें अलग अलग प्रैक्टिसेस दिखते हैं। टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट में 3 दिन फील्ड वर्क दिखता है, 3 दिन थ्योरी दिखती है। अभी अलग यूनिवर्सिटी में जाएगी तो 2 दिन फील्ड वर्क दिखता है, 4 दिन थ्योरी दिखती है। जहां तक मेरा नॉलेज है, हमारा जो प्रोफेशन है, हमारा जो करिकुलम है, वो प्रैक्टिस बेस है। अगर इसको ज्यादा से ज्यादा प्रैक्टिस बेस किया जाए तो हमारे बच्चों को ग्रासरूट लेवल इश्यूज समझने के लिए काफी हेल्प होंगी, और हम काफी आगे जा सकते। अ, अभी फिलहाल मुझे एक ICSSR का रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट मिला है, जिसमें हम ट्रेडिशनल प्रैक्टिसेस ऑफ ट्राइबल्स की बारे में हम रिसर्च कर रहे हैं। और इसी के दौरान हमें एक रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी वर्कशॉप अटेंड करने का अवसर प्रदान मिला है। तो अभी वहां पे एक नई बात चल रही है कि रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी फॉर ट्राइबल स्टडीज। हमारी जो सोशल साइंस की रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी है, वो अगर यूज करते हैं तो हम ट्राइबल्स को अच्छी तरह से नहीं समझ पाएंगे। तो इसलिए ट्राइबल रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी की बात हो रही है। तो क्या ऐसा कुछ इनोवेशन हम हमारे सोशल वर्क करिकुलम में भी ला सकते हैं क्या? इसके बारे में मुझे ये सजेशन देना है कि ये भी हमारे करिकुलम में कैसा लाया जा सकता है, इसके बारे में हमें सोचना पड़ेगा। हमारा जो सोशल वर्क शुरू हुआ था, चैरिटी से शुरू हुआ था, फिर हम सोसाइटीज रजिस्ट्रेशन गए, पब्लिक ट्रस्ट गए, अभी फिलहाल हम CSR के तरफ आ गए। तो बहुत सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज में CSR के ऊपर पेपर्स है, बहुत सारे यूनिवर्सिटीज में CSR के ऊपर कोई पेपर ही नहीं है। और हमारे बच्चों को CSR ही पता नहीं है, तो फील्ड में जाके एनजीओ में जब वो काम करेगा, हाउ ही कैन गेट फंडिंग फ्रॉम CSR, कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की एजेंसीज है, उनको वो नहीं मिल सकता है। तो CSR के ऊपर का जो कुछ यूनिट्स है हमारे सिलेबस में लाने की जरूरत है। बाद में हम इंक्लूजनेस की बात कर रहे हैं, एक्सक्लूजन की बात कर रहे हैं, ये भी हमारे सिलेबस में कहीं दिखता नहीं है। तो ये जो नई नई सब कॉन्सेप्ट्स आज आ रही है, इस सभी कॉन्सेप्ट्स को हमारे सोशल वर्क करिकुलम में कैसा इनकॉर्पोरेट किया जाना चाहिए, और उसको ज्यादा से ज्यादा फील्ड वर्क ओरिएंटेड कैसा हम कर सकते हैं, इसके ऊपर अगर हम ज्यादा ख्याल देंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि हमारा जो करिकुलम है, जो प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन को मैच नहीं कर रहा है, तो वो मैच करने लगेगा। हमारे बच्चों को ज्यादा जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिलेगी। और इस लिए जो हम इंडियनाइजेशन की भी बात कर रहे हैं, जैसा इन्होंने बताया है, विष्णु दास ने, तो उसका भी कुछ पार्ट हमने हमारे सिलेबस में इनकॉर्पोरेट किया है। इसको देखते हुए जेंडर स्टडीज का पेपर मैंने मेरे सिलेबस में हमारे यूनिवर्सिटी में इनकॉर्पोरेट किया है। बाद में सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप डेवलपमेंट की भी बात हो रही है। जहां तक बहुत सारे यूनिवर्सिटी के सिलेबस हम देखते हैं, तो उसमें सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप डेवलपमेंट के ऊपर कोई कंटेंट नहीं दिखता है। तो इसके बारे में भी हमें सोचना पड़ेगा कि जब हम सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के बारे में बात करें, तो हमारी करिकुलम में ये जो टॉपिक्स मिस हुए हैं, इसको भी कहाँ हम ऐड कर सकते हैं, इसके बारे में भी हमें सोचना पड़ेगा। विद दिस फ्यू वर्ड, आई विल स्टॉप हियर। थैंक यू वेरी मच DP सिंह जी और कनकराज एंड माय ऑल पैनलिस्ट लिसनिंग फॉर केयरफुली। थैंक यू।
So, धन्यवाद प्रोफेसर घनश्याम जी। आपने जो इश्यूज हाईलाइट करे हैं वो बड़े वर्तमान समय में बड़े प्रासंगिक हैं, और जो भी सोशल वर्क के जो अभ्यास करने वाले लोग हैं या जो हमारे जैसे पढ़ाने वाले लोग हैं, उनको इसके बारे में जो है चेतन होना चाहिए, इसको शामिल करना चाहिए हमारे पाठ्यक्रम में, क्योंकि जब तक पाठ्यक्रम में इस तरह के बदलाव हम लेके नहीं आएंगे तो हमारी जो एक पहचान है समाज कार्यकर्ता के रूप में, उसके लिए ऐसे ही हम संघर्ष करते रहेंगे, क्योंकि पहचान तो समाज देगा हमारे को, और जब तक समाज के लिए हम उपयोगी नहीं होंगे, जब तक हमारी जो निपुणताएं हैं, जब तक हमारी जो तकनीकी जो क्षमताएं हैं, जब तक वो लोगों की समस्याओं को और लोगों के जो जो कंसर्न्स हैं, जो चैलेंजेस हैं, जब तक हम उनका समाधान नहीं ढूंढ सकते, तो जो मर्जी हम कर लें, लोगों में हमारी पहचान हमेशा ही एक हाशिए पे खड़ी रहेगी। तो आपके जो जो मुद्दे हैं जो आपने उल्लेखित किए हैं, उनको एसेंशियली पाठ्यक्रम में एक जगह मिलनी चाहिए, और इट इज अबाउट टाइम नाउ दैट वी शुड एक्चुअली if not thoroughly, you should at least be changing our curriculum accordingly, and all these issues must be incorporated therein. I thank you, आपको बड़ा धन्यवाद है दिल से डॉक्टर घनश्याम जी, आप आए और आपने अपने बहुमूल्य विचार जो है हमारे साथ जो है साझा किए, और मुझे पूर्ण विश्वास है कि जो इस सम्मेलन के जो ऑर्गेनाइजर्स हैं, वो इन मुद्दों को अपने जो डॉक्यूमेंट तैयार करेंगे उसमें लिखेंगे, और कहीं ना कहीं एक जो डॉक्यूमेंट तैयार होके आएगा, इसकी जो प्रोसीडिंग्स आएंगी, उनमें ये बड़ा एक रोड मैप सिद्ध होगा कि हमारे करिकुलम में या जो इनोवेशंस की हम बात कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए क्या क्या मुद्दे हैं। तो मुझे पूरी विश्वास है और पूरा यकीन है कि डॉक्टर कनकराज और डॉक्टर भूपेंद्र और बाकी जो लोग हैं जो ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे हैं, कि वो कोई ना कोई डॉक्यूमेंट इसका लेके आएंगे, और वो डॉक्यूमेंट बड़ा यूजफुल रहेगा लोगों के लिए। तो मैं एक बार फिर से आपका धन्यवाद देता हूं डॉक्टर घनश्याम जी, और मैं आशा करता हूं कि हम फिर से मिलते रहेंगे, और आप इस तरह की जो शैक्षणिक जो प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं, इस तरह के जो सम्मेलन हैं, उसमें फिर से आप अपना योगदान देते रहेंगे और हमारे को लाभान्वित करते रहेंगे। सो धन्यवाद एक बार फिर से, थैंक यू वेरी मच। सो नाउ वी आर एट द एंड ऑफ द प्रोग्राम, and I would request the rapporteur, Miss Aditi Nath, to go through the chat. If there are some specific questions, she can highlight that questions, or I can even request Dr. Kanagraj to search for some questions in the chat if there are, or even if there are not, somebody who can be online can straightway ask the questions. If it is possible this way, you can just switch on your microphone and you can address your question so that we can have a brief discussion. And there are 36 participants there visible in this application. So I would request any one of you to please unmute voluntarily and ask your questions if there are some questions. Dr. Aditi Nath, please. Please take on from here, Dr. Aditi Nath. Are there some questions there in the chat?
No,
Sir,
sir.
no question, sir. No
No,
question.
So, with
No
the
question.
permission of the organizers, should
Sir,
we
we
be
can
winding it up,
conclude.
wrapping it up?
We can conclude, sir. Time is up, na?
Okay. So, for me particularly, it was a great learning opportunity, meeting old friends like Dr. Patil, Dr. Vishnu, and Dr. Ghansham. It was an enlightening session, and I really thank the organizers for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. And I also thank every participant to be with us throughout the program and keenly listening to the views of the panelists. And I am hopeful that the views will be helpful to them in redesigning or course correcting the curriculum of the social work profession. It has been a long time now, and we have to be very serious about this so that we are able to meet the mandate of social work, and we have to create a unique niche for ourselves in the community of other committee of other professions which are contemporary professions. They are far ahead than us these days, so we will also have to somewhere introspect and find out our own mistakes, and should be able to admit them and assimilate them and incorporate them in redesigning our curriculum so that our curriculum is more relevant, is more output oriented, and it is more able to capture the aspirations of the people of India. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Over to Dr. Bhupender, please. Please, Bhupender, please take on from here.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for so much means कैसे हिंदी में ही आ जाता हूँ. आप लोगों ने हिंदी बहुत बार टच की, तो थैंक यू सो मच सारगर्भित करने के लिए बहुत सारी चीजों को और बहुत सारी इंफॉर्मेशन को इस छोटे से समय में आप लोगों ने हमारी ऑडियंस के सामने, हमारे सहभागियों के सामने रखी. इसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सारे के सारे पैनलिस्ट का और चेयरपर्सन का. थैंक यू सो मच. Now you can leave the panel and you may be in the attendance list or as per your comfort. You are welcome always and everywhere. So now we are moving further to our another session that is scheduled for the talk. Our speaker for the talk, Dr. Mukesh Kumar, and the chairperson for the session, Dr. Praful Kapse. They both had joined us, and I am happy to introduce our chairperson for the today's session, Dr. Praful Kapse. He is one of my good friend, assistant from the very beginning. Currently, he is associate professor and head at the Maharashtra Institute of Mental Health, Pune, and running his own unit and so running MPhil programs over there. Earlier, he was in a community program, and then he was delivering basically the suicide prevention program in the Yavatmal and all. So when this topic came in the mind, the temporal shift in practice of medical social work, I thought that this person would be a very good asset to chair the session, to put his keen observations and understandings on the temporal shift from the current or from the past to current or to the future. Coming to our speaker, Dr. Mukesh Kumar, a very good speaker, very good friend of ours, and the medical social service officer at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. Sir is going to enlighten the topic today. So, Dr. Mukesh, without any further delay, although that our previous session is already being delayed, so without making any further delay, I am handing over the mic to you and your chairperson. Over to both of you. Thank you.
With permission of Dr. Bhupender, I would like to intervene here. I may also add that Mr. Mukesh Kumar is my classmate from Kurukshetra University. Both of us, we were together in Kurukshetra University in the same class.
Mukesh sir, you are mute.
Mukesh, unmute karo. Unmute karo.
Mukesh sir, you are mute. Please unmute yourself.
Mukesh, unmute karo, unmute. Mukesh और हम दोनों classmate थे कुरुक्षेत्र में.
Yes. Hi, DP.
Thank you, Mukesh, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting. So I was not aware about this fact. So just another that today's speaker is the classmate of the previous chair. Okay, Mukesh sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhupender, I am extremely grateful to the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to deliver a talk on the issue, which I think is very, very pertinent. and that is temporal shifts in the practice of medical social work in India. I'm beginning my talk by giving you a brief overview of how medical social work in India has developed so far. When we talk about medical social work in India, its credit goes to Bhore Committee. We all know the Government of India constituted the Health Survey and Development Committee, which is very popularly known as the Bhore Committee. In 1943, it was constituted, and its purpose was to study the then existing health conditions and institutions in the country and to make suggestions for further development through comprehensive health planning. Bhore Committee, in its report in 1946, gave several recommendations, and one of the important recommendations was for the training and appointment of social workers in hospital settings. Bhore Committee members had visited USA and UK, and they were quite impressed with the role and functioning of hospital arm nurse there who were working. And they believed that the situation of Indian hospitals can be improved with the effective engagement of medical social workers. That's why they recommended for the training and appointment of social workers in medical settings. First medical social worker was appointed in JJ Hospital, Mumbai in 1946. And as far as training in this specialty is concerned, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, became the pioneering institute to offer specialized training in medical and psychiatric social work in 1948 under the leadership of Dr. Gauri Rani Banerjee. And later on, many other hospitals and social work teaching institutions like NIMHANS, CIP, INPAS, and other social work training institutions started providing specialized training in medical and psychiatric social work. After Bhore Committee, so many committees were formed, but none of the committee members took note of the role of social workers. However, in between, government and other organizations kept on framing certain guidelines which mandated for the appointment of hospital-based social workers. Medical Council of India, which is now repealed and it is replaced by National Medical Commission, it laid down guidelines for minimum requirements to start medical college for 50 to 250 MBBS admissions per year. And as per these guidelines, it was mandated to appoint certain number of social workers in the departments of community medicine, rural training health center, urban training health center, obs and gynecology, pediatrics, psychiatry, and physical medicine and rehabilitation. In order to provide comprehensive healthcare services, which are based on standards of quality healthcare, responsiveness, and sensitivity to the needs of the population, a set of norms have been recommended for the hospitals by the government. And these norms are called as Indian Public Health Standards. These standards provide a benchmark to assess the functional state of hospitals. And henceforth, the hospitals are expected to provide essential clinical services, diagnostic services, ancillary services, and administrative services. And medical social work has been incorporated as an essential ancillary and support service under Indian Public Health Standards, and it has been mandated to appoint a certain number of social workers in the hospitals and community health centers. Trained social workers have also been appointed in various national health programs like National AIDS Control Program, National Mental Health Program, National Organ Transplant Program, and many other programs. The standards for blood bank, they also mandate to appoint medical social workers and counselors whose responsibilities are to do counseling services and also motivate people to come forward for blood donation, and they are engaged in blood donation related outreach activities. Now the question comes, why medical social work is required? And what is the need of social work in healthcare? As we all know, healthcare facilities in the country have evolved tremendously in the last few decades. Several specialties, super specialties in the diagnosis and treatment have come up. This advancement in the field of medical technology has made it possible to cure diseases that were once considered incurable. However, the cost of the treatment is so high that its affordability remains out of reach for many people. With the increasing population, there's overcrowding in public hospitals, and a large number of patients who are poor, who belong to below poverty line, lower and middle class strata of the society, they approach these hospitals for cheaper treatment. This has increased the workload for the medical professionals also. And due to this increased workload, medical professionals do not have much time to spend on each and every patient. That's why we see in Indian hospitals, now the concept of family doctor or a doctor-patient relationship, it has gone. So there's a gap which needs to be filled up. It is also observed that the attitude of other hospital staff towards the patient is also very apathetic. Now, all these things have made healthcare not only costly, but a complex affair. So since medical social workers are experts in making socioeconomic assessments and mobilizing resources which are available within and outside the client system, their presence is desirable. They can bridge the gap in the relationship between the doctors and the patients. Another thing is that when the patients enter into the hospital settings, it is a completely new environment. They are not much aware of the hospital environment. They need to be acquainted with the facilities which are available in the hospital, like different departments, emergency OPDs, diagnostics, including the procedures and protocols involved in the treatment process. At times, even they are not available what services are available at the hospital for their own benefit. So medical social workers are here required in the very beginning to help patients and attendants in navigating hospital procedures, and make them aware about the welfare schemes and welfare services which are available for them at the hospital. Another thing we see that in hospitals quite often receive, which we call vulnerable group of patients. In previous discussion, in the previous session, this word has been used, and the experts have raised objections on using vulnerable group of patient and using this word vulnerable. But since it is being used, I have kept it here. So these patients who are homeless, who are unknown, who are unattended, who are mentally challenged, who are victims of domestic violence or rape victims. So these patients need to be necessarily get support so that they are kept in safe and a safe hospital environment, and they are discharged to appropriate places. So therefore, since social work is a value-based profession, we call, and it is committed to helping the needy and serving the poorest of the poor, hence its intervention is desirable in the treatment of patients who belong to these vulnerable groups. Another thing is, nowadays, many hospitals are affiliated to universities and medical colleges that not only treat people, not only run clinical services, but they also undertake academic activities. And social workers are required to assist in teaching, training, and research-related activities with the medical teams, specifically on social, economic, and emotional dimensions of health and illness. In hospital settings, medical social workers are dealing with various issues pertaining to the patients and their needs. Some of the major issues are financial issues. We see in our country a substantial proportion of the population lives under the poverty line. A greater number of people belong to the middle or lower middle strata. Often people who fall under this category, they face a shortage of finances to receive desired treatment and meet their healthcare needs. Now, such patients are referred to social workers who facilitate financial assistances through various funds and resources available from the hospital, from the government, and other community agencies or other private sources. Another issue, hospital procedures, I have already discussed. I won't discuss it again, that when a patient comes to the hospital, hospital environment is absolutely new. He doesn't know where to go, what to do. And the hospital social workers, they are there to help the patient navigate hospital procedures and protocols. Another issue is their relocation, and this is happening in, I think, almost big cities. We know in our country, large number of healthcare institutes, whether it is government or private, they are providing specialty, super specialty, and referral services, but they are situated in big metropolitan cities. And patients from across the country come there for seeking treatment for numerous diseases and ailments. Many times these patients and their relatives need to stay there for some time till the patient recovers after the treatment. So this necessitates the relocation of patients and their caregivers, and professional social workers in hospitals are required to guide and refer patients to temporary shelters so that they can get cheaper or subsidized or free accommodations there till the time they require. Few diseases we all know have specific issues pertaining to the beliefs attached to the disease and societal attitude towards patients suffering from such diseases like HIV, AIDS, leprosy, skin diseases. So medical social workers are also required to deal with the belief and value system of the patient in relation to their treatment in the medical settings. Shortage of resources is another issue. Medical social workers who are working in public health facilities face the problem of limited resources available at the disposal of the hospital. And many times it is very difficult and very challenging for them to explain to the patients and their families why the required resources cannot be made available to them and why cannot be available to all the clients and why it is not available in the hospital and why they are referred to outside hospitals. So this is another issue. Coming to the functions of medical social work, it is only the Bhore Committee which in its report delineated the functions of medical social workers. After that, as I told in my previous slide, various committees were formed, but none of the committee took note of the role of medical social worker. So what Bhore Committee said about the role of professional social workers and their functions is that a medical social worker should be making an inquiry about the environmental factors affecting the patients. They should help patients to follow the treatment regimen. They should assist patients to overcome barriers in the treatment and recovery. They should establish linkages with the community agencies. They should involve themselves in health education and health promotion activities. They should do resource mobilization and look over the abuse of hospital resources. Now, these activities are relevant today also for medical social workers, and social workers who are working in hospital centers are performing these activities. But as I said, it has been now 8 decades. And during this 8 decades, healthcare field has changed. So that has altered the role of medical social worker also. And apart from these activities which Bhore Committee mentioned, now hospitals also require medical social workers to do several other activities, which I will be discussing in the coming slide. In practice, practically we see that medical social workers are performing multiple functions. Counseling is the predominant activity, and this task as a major activity for medical social work encompasses supportive counseling to enhance the coping ability of the patients, to alter their attitude and perceptions for their disease, and to deal with social problems. Counseling also helps the patient articulate their feelings and manage social and emotional aspects of illness and disease. Another area of intervention comes when they make psychosocial assessment of the patients. Psychosocial assessment of the patients involves gathering information about the patient, his family members, his significant ones, his living conditions, economic status, occupational status, support system, personal strengths, coping mechanisms, risk factors, community resources, and so on. And such information helps the social worker and medical team to assess the patients and the family needs in the process of treatment. Home visit, which has been considered as a very important tool for social work practice that is relevant in medical settings also. These home visits help in obtaining more relevant information about the patient and his environment than what we try to get and elicit from the patient during office hours. Home visits also help a lot in appraising the problems of the patient, the relation of family interactions of these problems, personality features of the family members, the systems of intra-familial and interpersonal relationships, socioeconomic status, and so on. So this is an important activity. However, in practice, again, though medical social workers are making home visits, but this is not a very frequent activity for them. Referral and linkages, this is a major activity in which they are involved. They are required to get themselves engaged, and it takes a lot of their time. This is because in Indian hospital settings, we see when patients and their families come, they face certain issues related to their treatment. For example, there's lack of beds due to problem of very tight bed occupancy. There's non-availability of a particular facility or a super specialty as far as diagnosis and treatment is concerned in that particular hospital. Patients have shortage of financial resources to bear the expenses of treatment. There are accommodation problems. They need relocation. There are rehabilitation needs for the patients who are physically or mentally disabled. There are unknown, unattended patients who need rehabilitation. So these patients are required to be referred to individuals, maybe doctors or social workers, other hospitals, other community agencies and organizations, so that they can seek assistance from there. So social worker refer these patients to different persons and organizations to facilitate their treatment and rehabilitation as and when required. Generally, these patients are referred to treatment centers, vocational training centers, residential accommodation, residential institutions, charitable organization. And this is, as I said, is a major activity in which medical social workers are involved. Public relation is again one activity, which is important activity for medical social workers. And this includes taking daily rounds with the medical team in the wards, meeting medicals and paramedics, discussing with them about the patient's problems, their needs, meeting donors, mobilizing resources on behalf of the patients so that they can be helped in their treatment process. Another major activity is administrative tasks. Now, the administrative functions of medical social workers include many activities, which include maintaining their record of their daily diary, documentation, record keeping. As we all know, it is an era of digitalization. Like any other organization, hospitals are also digitalized and they are functional on e-hospital systems. Various programs and schemes run by the government for the welfare of the patients are also available, are also operational on e-modules. So medical social workers are now required to be more proficient in maintaining, in working on e-module systems. So they are involved in generating annual reports, preparing plans for the project. They are also involved in making budget formulation for the department. They participate in hospital committees like authorization committee that approves organ transplant in case of living unrelated donors, grievance and redressal committees, sexual harassment committees, ethics committees, and committees those who scrutinize the cases for providing financial assistance. So in these areas also social workers are being involved. And apart from that, they are also involved in doing official correspondences, internal as well as external. Now, since majority of the social workers are postgraduates, because in majority of the hospitals, the minimum qualification for the appointment of medical social workers is postgraduate in social work. So they are all postgraduates and they study research methodology also in their post. So hospitals are also expecting to engage them in research-related activities with other healthcare team on various topics. Maybe it is social, economic, psychological aspects of health or illness, or it is knowledge, attitude, and practice studies on program evaluation studies, follow-up studies, or any explorative or comparative studies or any interventional studies. So this is an area where now increasingly medical social workers are being involved. As I previously also told, modern hospitals not only offer clinical services, but also they run several academic programs via affiliated medical colleges and universities. Now, social workers, being an integral part of the healthcare team, are actively involved in teaching students of different disciplines like medicine or social work, public health, health education, nursing, occupational therapy. They also provide orientation, training, and supervisory services to social work students who come there for fieldwork training. They also supervise students who visit medical social welfare units from nursing background or interns or NSS volunteers. And apart from this, they are engaged in developing and organizing regular in-service training programs and even continuing education programs for the department for various healthcare personnel. They also participate and they are engaged in organizing various events like conferences, seminars, symposiums, or knowledge exchange programs or skill enhancement programs. So in academic front, their role is being now realized. I have made it very brief. So to conclude, in a nutshell, we can say that medical social work is an important component of healthcare. The presence of social worker professional in healthcare team is desirable for multiple reasons, as I mentioned in my slides. Medical social workers intervene in social, economic, and psychological dimensions of health. In medical social work settings, medical social workers are required not only to offer direct services like counseling services or making psychosocial assessment, home visits, referrals, mobilization, though this is important activity for all medical social workers. But apart from that, with the coming time now, they are also more engaged in other activities which are related to administrative tasks or teaching or training or supervision and research activities. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And before I wind up, I once again congratulate the organizing committee for organizing such a wonderful conference. And I hope the participants will benefit from the deliberations and discussions which will be held during this 3 days. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, sir, for a wonderful illustration about the medical social work, how this journey of medical social work started with Gauri Rani Banerjee inducting first social worker into a medical practice, following the decision of Bore committee to appoint a social worker in the hospitals. But I think you have rightly said that these functions are evolved over the period of last 20, 30, 40 years, and the administrative demands as well as the teaching and training demand in the field work is very, very important, and particularly for medical social worker. Now there are even as you rightly said that in NMC guideline also, for every particular MBBS seats there should be one social worker. That is a mandatory qualification.
Yeah.
The mandatory staff structure that is being administered under NMC. So I think there are way to go, but as you know, in the previous panel discussion, many of the speakers have pointed out that you must prove the worth being in that particular setup. You contribute in terms of delivering care to the persons with illness. You deliver your services in terms of administration, teaching and training to multidisciplinary team, particularly in the medical setting. So for any setting, whether it is a urban, rural setting, or it is a human resource setting or the medical setting, you must perform or the parish is nearby. So it is very important. I once again congratulate you for bringing us this wonderful shift that what medical social work has been in the thing. So it was a very wonderful session, sir, for this thing. I think I just looked at the chat box. I think there are no questions as such. So I think we can conclude. Yes, Dr. Bhupendra.
If I may be allowed to make a comment.
Yes. You are more than welcome. Yes.
Thank you. Totally agree with the thought of the chairperson and the thoughts of the presentee as well. But at the same time, I think that one another perspective is there which we have to keep in our mind. No matter that how much policies or the existing framework of the government scenario or the institutional scenario is giving opportunity to us as a professional social worker to perform ourselves. But until unless we are not in a condition to prove our skills, prove
Right.
our importance, that everything is in drain. So somewhere I many times feel that it is high time not to work, not to look into the policy, not into the infra part only. We have to look to the our skill part as well. That is also a necessary thing. That's it from my side.
Yes, very rightly said. It is very important. That's what our focus is, not only to understand the nitty-gritties of the functions that you should do in your day-to-day practice, but you should make an impact of that practice.
Yeah.
So how you can, contribute to the overall system, so that system itself will recognize your efforts.
Exactly.
So that is what is very important. And I think point is very well highlighted here. So yes, I once again congratulate Dr. Mukesh Kumar for bringing us this wonderful lecture here. And I thank all the participants, organizer for giving me this opportunity to be chair on this session. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you,
we should
both
conclude.
the
Yes.
speakers
Yes.
and the chairperson, for being very wonderful and very wonderful delivery. And to the participants, it is lunchtime. So means although we are almost at the end, it was expected to have lunch from 1:30 to 2. But the link for the post lunch sessions is different. So here we are ending and we would join from another link and starting from our another academic activity. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Praful. Thank you, Dr. Mukesh.